Hello everyone, welcome back to another video by Mahim Math Tutorials. This video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go over some of the courses that you usually take in high school, as well as how to relearn some of those courses as an adult if you're trying to go back to school. So without further ado, let us begin. So let us go over the 5 general math courses you usually take when it comes to either 4th grade all the way up to 12th grade, and how exactly does that prepare you for higher level math courses in college. So I'm just going to give like a general overview right now, and then later I'm going to go more in depth on how you can relearn some of these courses if you're trying to go back to school. Now, bear in mind, when I'm saying go back to school, I'm only speaking about college. I might do a different video on, I guess, how to learn the courses, or actually how to become better at the mathematics you need in order to complete your GED or just finish your high school diploma. But from now on, well, from here on out, we're only speaking purely college level courses and the requirements you need in order to fulfill those courses. So let's start with pre-algebra. Pre-algebra isn't really a course or a specific course that you take in school. More so, it's a bunch of different courses that you take from 4th grade all the way up to 8th grade. And that builds your overall basic pre-algebra base that you need in order to take courses in high school. So from pre-algebra, you usually learn Algebra 1. Now, some classes, or I guess some schools, may do this a little bit differently. You don't really take Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 concurrently. You usually go from pre-algebra to Algebra 1 to geometry and then to Algebra 2. However, every school may be a little bit different, including mine. I learned Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 concurrently. I did a terrible job with it, but anyways, that's a story for another day. But overall, most high schools go from pre-algebra to algebra 1, then geometry, algebra 2, and then algebra 2 solely based and builds off of trigonometry. So pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and trigonometry. And then once you completed all these 5 general math courses, then you're ready to take on short introductory, more advanced math courses that will further prepare you for college level mathematics. Now, let me touch upon what those particular math courses are. All right, then. So, to go over the 3 general introductory courses that prepare you for higher level college mathematics, I first need to talk about how each particular math course prepares you for which particular higher level introductory course. So, let's start with precalculus. Precalculus is usually the introductory course that most college, or I guess most college-bound high schoolers take in order to prepare themselves for Calc 1, Calc 2, and Calc 3. However, the thing about pre-calc is that it's kind of a weird math class in that you don't really learn or doesn't really prepare you for calculus. More so, it just builds on top of the principles you've already learned in pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, some geometry, but also a lot of trigonometry. And that, to a certain extent, prepares you for Calc 1 to Calc 3. And usually, those are introductory math classes you need in order to take if you want to learn science or engineering in college. Now, let me move on to statistics. So, statistics is not really a class that has a college level equivalent to it because the statistics you learn in college is way different than the statistics you learn in high school. However, the statistics you learn in high school does actually help you solve real world problems. Like, for example, you could determine like at what point in a graph do two other graph lines meet. Stuff like that. It just generally tells you. It just generally tells you and shows you how to interpret graphs and like what type of determinations can you make from certain graphs. But then again, most people, well, I guess most students that are college bound who take statistics, they usually take it because they either don't want to take pre-calc or they think pre-calc is too difficult for them. But in my honest opinion, it's much more better and also much more worthwhile to take pre-calc if you want to study engineering or science. And now let me move on to college algebra. So college algebra is also a special type of math class because it's algebra, but like I said, like in the name it says college algebra. You don't really learn it in high school, although I guess there are some higher level end math classes that you could take in high school that could potentially translate over to college algebra, but not in the way you may think, because College algebra basically builds on top of the principles that you learned in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, as well as some trigonometry and some geometry. But unlike pre-calc, where like you use it in order to prepare yourself for calculus, college algebra just teaches you how to solve real-world problems using the math that you've already previously learned. And it's very interesting because whenever I was a kid in high school, I always was doing math. I would often think to myself, why am I learning this? I'm never gonna use this in the real world. Well, technically I was right, but I was also wrong. Because in order to use the math that I already know in the real world, I have to take college algebra. Then I would actually have some way to actually apply what I learned to solve real world problems. Now, let me go over on how to actually relearn some of these college courses if you think your your math might be lacking in some areas, and also how to fully prepare for either pre-calculus, statistics, or college algebra. So now I'm going to break down each particular high school course and also briefly explain what type of topics they cover and how to supplement some of that material on your own if you see yourself lacking some basic foundational math skills. So, to start off, we're going to start with pre algebra. Now, pre algebra is basically where you learn everything you need to know in order to solve basic math problems in Algebra 1 and to a certain extent, Algebra 2. But more so, it deals with such as the many different types of numbers, whether it be integers, decimals, or fractions, or the factorizations of natural or irrational numbers. Basically, it's kind of like a more of a foundational theoretical course based around what numbers are not, and what makes certain numbers special and not special at all, and the concept of imaginary numbers. Now, Algebra 1 goes more in depth on some of the basic concepts that you learn in pre algebra, such as fractions, how to add, subtract fractions, how to multiply, divide fractions, as well as how to add, subtract, and multiply and divide mixed fractions, and also how to convert mixed fractions to improper numbers, or vice versa. Oh, sorry about that. How to convert mixed fractions to improper fractions, and also vice versa, how to convert them back to mixed numbers, and also introduces you to a basic concept of graphs, rate of change, and also functions. So basically, what a function is that whenever you have a dependent and independent variable, the equation or you get a different answer depending on whether the dependent variable changes and it affects the independent variable. Now, I know that might sound kind of complex, but think of it this way. If you have a juicer, like a juicer that's a machine, and you put fruit in it to make fruit juice, if you put an orange juice, not an orange juice, so you put an orange in the juicer, you'll get orange juice. So therefore, the orange is a dependent variable, but the juicer itself is the independent variable. It doesn't really change in itself. You just get a different output for every different input you put into it. Now, if I were to grab an apple and put it in the juicer, and I expect it to turn into orange juice, I'll be very saddened by the fact that it doesn't turn into orange juice because apples don't turn into orange juice; they turn into apple juice. So it's very similar to that. The fruit is a dependent variable and the juicer is the independent variable. And basically, for whatever different input you put into it, you'll get a different output. But overall, the independent variable stays the same all the time. Now, Algebra 2 is where you learn a little bit more about statistics, trigonometry, well, not really trigonometry as a whole, but more trigonometric concepts and how that relates to general algebra principles. And not only that, but you also learn about logarithms, exponents, and also how to add them together and multiply them and divide exponents as well, and how to combine exponents with certain fractions, and how to use an exponent to represent a real world situation. Basically, Algebra 2 is when it all starts to click together and you start to applying it to, well, not really real situations, but more theoretical situations, and start using math, some algebraic concepts to solve some real world problems. And so now we move on to the field of geometry. So geometry is basically just a field of study in mathematics where you deal with the points, lines, rays to certain degrees of certain angles, how those certain angles construct into different triangles, and how you can fit certain triangles into other shapes, as well as the many different dimensions such as one dimension, second dimension, third dimension, four dimension shapes as well. And where exactly do you see geometry apply in real world, whether it be architecture, technology, or science? And so trigonometry builds on some of the foundational skills you learn in geometry. Where geometry you learn about triangles, and trigonometry you go a little bit more in depth and know about the different sides of triangles, as well as how they correspond to the particular angles of the triangles, and how I use those to calculate the distance of certain things in the air or across wide open planes. Now, there are two different types of trigonometry. There's spherical trigonometry and plane trigonometry. And oftentimes you'll only learn about plane trigonometry in high school, and towards once you start getting into college courses, then you'll start to expand some of them. Your knowledge of trigonometry will start to expand, and you'll start to learn more about spherical trigonometry as well. So, if you are looking to improve your basic pre-algebra skills, then I recommend this particular course. Pre-Algebra Explained by John Green. John Green has a bachelor's degree in mathematics as well as a master's degree in economics, so he definitely knows a thing or two about math. As you can see, this course is pretty long and very comprehensive. There's quizzes after every particular lecture series, and you'll definitely have a pretty large base in order to learn much more advanced mathematical courses. Now, once you've already completed the pre-algebra course by John Green, I recommend moving on to beginning algebra. And now this is an Alex series, so you will have to sign up for a admin account in order to properly enroll yourself in this particular course. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a very good foundation for Algebra 1, and it will prepare you for Algebra 2, which will be Intermediate Algebra, which is the next corresponding course I recommend you to take. However, it will not be from Alex. It will actually be from Think Well Homeschool. Now, Think Well Homeschool has a really nice selection of math courses that you can teach yourself online from. And it's mainly like a company that offers math courses for parents that homeschool their children. But this particular course for intermediate algebra online is also not only very comprehensive, but it's at a pretty decent price as well. And as you can see, you can scroll through the curriculum. It also gives you a very good foundation for Algebra 2 skills, and it gives you all the necessary tools you need in order to succeed within Algebra 2, which is otherwise known as Intermediate Algebra. And as you can see, your teacher is Edward Berger, Global Hero in Education by Microsoft Corporation, America's Best Math Teacher by Reader's Digest, and Robert Foster Cherry Award winner for great teaching. Now moving on to geometry from Intermediate Algebra. I think when it comes to geometry, it more so has to do with getting down the algebraic concepts first of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and then generally moving on to more complex geometric problems as well as principles. So overall, in my general opinion, this YouTube channel, I believe is very good for teaching yourself different types of math courses. It's called the College Prep School. As an arithmetic course, pre-algebra course, beginning algebra course, geometry course, and intermediate algebra course. Now, I personally have not gone over all these particular courses. I've only gone over the geometry course. And in my opinion, I believe this one is most likely the best one that they have. And is generally the one that I recommend in order to teach yourself geometry. Now, let's take a quicker look at it. Sorry about that, guys. It took a while to load. But anyways, there's the full geometry course on display. As you can see, it's a playlist of basically 50 videos, and each video is about an hour to an hour and a half long. So first you start off with a lecture, then you go over some basic principles on geometry, and you also assign homework to do for every single lecture. And there's also a final exam at the end of this. So as you can see, this course is very comprehensive. I definitely recommend this if you want to relearn geometry, specifically high school geometry. And when you go to college, you do learn some higher level basic concepts when it comes to geometry, and you also learn do more practical equations when it comes to different types of dimensions, such as first, second, third, fourth, and fifth dimensions as well. Now, when it comes to teaching yourself trigonometry online, I generally recommend taking three particular courses, and I want to emphasize that you do these particular courses in the order that I'm about to describe right now. So, I recommend getting a solid foundation of basic trigonometric principles, which is why I recommend you take this particular trigonometry course first by Khan Academy. It's only about 4 different lectures, but they have practice problems so you can practice along with the lectures as well. And it'll give you a good solid foundations of what trigonometry is, what it's used for, as well as how to calculate particular angles and how to use the Pythagorean theorem. Now, once you're done with this particular course, then I recommend going back to Think Well Homeschool and taking their trigonometry online course. And I think this was solidly build off the foundation of your basic algebraic concepts as well, and it'll further build on top of how those algebraic concepts relate to trigonometry, which is why I generally recommend taking this course second after you finish the Khan Academy one. As you can see, there's algebraic prerequisites. It gives like a cool rundown of what you need to learn, what you need to know beforehand, the trigonometric functions, trigonometric identities, applications of trigonometry, complex numbers and polar coordinates, exponential and logarithmic functions. Now, once you're complete with this particular trigonometry course, then I recommend you move on to the last trigonometry course, and that one is by Organic Chemistry Tutor. And you can find this particular course on Udemy. As you can see, it's solid trigonometry, unit circle, angles, and right triangles. And as you can see, this one is also pretty comprehensive as well. I would say it's slightly more comprehensive when it comes to certain other topics compared to the other Think Well Homeschool course. But in my opinion, I think it's the best way, or I guess it's rather my best advice is to finish this particular course last. So just sum it up. First, you start with a trigonometry course from Khan Academy, then do the trigonometry course from Think Well Homeschool, and finish up with a trigonometry course by Organic Chemistry Tutor, which is on Udemy. So that's it for today's video, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also share with your friends and family. And stay tuned for another video of my math tutorials.